we are going. So, hi. Tonight we're going to talk about and play around with the tools that you can use in Silhouette Studio to draw and to write fonts with sketch pens or foil quill pens or what. There's a number of different things that you can use, um, and which we will be exploring next month with some actual demonstrations of different types of equipment that you can use and pens and things like that with the Silhouette Cameo. But this time, what we're going to do is learn those skills so that in the month to come, maybe you can play around in there, practice some things, draw some things, because hopefully we'll get it set up like we have in the past where you can get something made at the library if you don't own a Silhouette machine. So the first thing I'm going to do is share my screen, and we're going to go look at Silhouette Studio. There we go. Okay, so you guys are familiar with the page setup. You've been in Silhouette Studio before. I find that working with shapes, and especially when we're going to go through how to fill a shape, that this background with the grid can get pretty distracting. So I like to go ahead and turn that off. Page setup automatically opens. The panel automatically opens every time you open a new document. So it should be there. And I'm going to click here, and then right here is your show grid. And I'm going to uncheck that box so that becomes plain. It's just easier to see. If you have things that you're going to need to have lined up and whatnot, I suggest you draw what you need to draw and then turn that back on when you want to do any sort of placement on the on-screen mat here. All right, so here we are. The other thing I want to talk about real quickly, because we're going to use this quite a bit, is in the send panel. Particularly if you don't have a machine, you may not be as familiar with this. But right over here on the right is normally where you tell it what kind of material you're using and what, blade you're using and what you want, the action you want to take. Well, we're not going to be cutting today. We're going to be sketching. So it's right here that I'm going to change that to sketch. And this tool will automatically change to pen, and it's the only option. So it doesn't matter what kind of pen it is, but that's what you're going to get. And it also does not matter what type of material you choose. These settings are going to remain the same. Force, which is the amount of pressure being put down onto the paper or whatever you're drawing on, is the speed, obviously, is how fast the drawing is going, and passes is how many times it does it. So we only need one pass. And this is just automatic. And again, it's one of those things that you want to test out on your machine and make sure everything's working before you start a big drawing project. But that's because we're going to be coming back into this send screen or send tab, if you will, several times, because there's things to check on in here that you can't see when you're in the design tab, especially when it comes to drawing. So first thing, fonts. So when you're drawing fonts, I'm going to show you guys a picture of a card that I made a good long while ago. If you happen to come to this was a class, actually this was not the class, this was the class that was supposed to happen and then COVID went. Hello. It's iris folding. I did a class at the library the year before COVID, whatever that was. And what you see here, this My Valentine, the Be My Valentine, very clever. That's drawn with a sketch pen, the My Valentine part. As you can see, there's an outline around it. It's really an outlined font. It's just a regular font. Go back in Silhouette Studio. When I come over here and I click on the left-hand toolbar, the text in here, and I'm going to type my name. I generally know how to spell that. Let's make this bigger. See, you see the outline. If I cut it, these would be the cut lines. If I draw it, these will be the lines that get drawn. So I'm going to go into the send panel, and you notice I'm still on sketch here, and this is where it's going to draw the lines. It's not going to fill it in. The other thing it's important to understand is that even if I fill it and I go over to send, It's still just doing the outside. Filling it with a color only does you any good if you're going to print, like do a print and cut. So take that out of there. So your Silhouette or Silhouette Studio can access the fonts that are installed on your computer. And where you want to go to find that out, that I have it selected, is over here on the right. It's the text style panel. And it'll show you all the different things. So if I, oh, I know why. I think because I found it. No, there we go. If I double click on text, if you took the text class, you remember that this is still editable. So if I'd misspelled my name, I could, add another letter, or I could change the font. If at any point I weld something, or remember when we right click on and we talk about make a compound path, or this is see how that all grayed out? It's because this is no longer editable text. But I can go back and I can choose any font that I want that's already installed on my computer. And I'll show you, like, here's a lovely little cursive font. And you remember from this sort of thing that if we were to draw this, it's going to draw every one of those lines. So if I like that, I want to do an outline, I can do that. I'm just going to weld it. And then when I go to my send panel, it's going to draw the outline, which can work. Like I said, on that Be My Valentine card, it was fine. But they also make something called single line fonts. And what these are is, there we go, are fonts that, when drawn, appear as a single line. Now, I realize I did something or didn't do something. This is a new computer. All my fonts are on my external hard drive. And I don't know. Well, even like if you look at this looks like a Bradley hand is a standard handwritten, put that in quotes, font. But as you can see in Silhouette, it still comes up as an outline. What a single line font will do, I'll tell you what, I'm going to take you over to a website and show you things. Okay, so do you see the single line fonts website?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
What is the actual website? Because I can't.
It's singlelinefonts.com. It's on that resource document that you got.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
And the way they work these is the designer, when they design the font, it's actually still a true type font. It's actually still a closed loop font, but they have placed the lines on top of one another. So you'll get what looks like a single line. And that's the way that works. And my apologies. I'm writing myself all these notes and like things you need to do. And I forgot to reinstall. I have a number of single line fonts and I just don't have them installed on my computer. So rather than take up any time with that, I think you get the idea of how that works. So let's go back to Silhouette Studio. Okay. Another thing you can draw in Silhouette Studio are sketch designs. And the easy way to do it is things that you've purchased from the Silhouette design store. Let's go over there for a second. And you can go into fonts. Now, most of these are not let's see, Tall and Skinny Farmhouse font. I have a sneaky suspicion that's still not a single line font. You can just type in here, single line. Obviously, I've done it before. Enter. And here you go. And if I go fonts down here on the left and as the design type. Now, if it's got single or line in it, the name in its name, it's still going to come up. But these are some pretty cool things. That's a fun one. I think I bought it, as a matter of fact. The thing with single line fonts to realize, and you can see it, I think, when you look at this, they don't work in word processing programs. They don't print well. They're not meant to. They'll look spotty and very pale. It's really meant for using with any kind of cutting machine that can use pen units. So just to recognize the fact that if you purchase any of these, whether it's from the Silhouette store, single line fonts, or other places that you can get fonts from, you're probably not going to be able to use it in your word processing programs. The other thing in this design store that you can get are, we're going to just go to designs. I just clicked on designs, and now I'm going to tell it, I just want to see the sketch designs. And these are specifically designed to be able to be drawn. This is one I purchased for, or maybe got for free. They do occasionally put these on the, they have all these free fonts that they have, or free weekly design. But you can see there's lots of different, get some bigger stuff, that these are all meant to be drawn. So if you want to make a birthday card, this is a cute one. Happy Mother's Day. No, that's not a font, that's a design. So, and then the way you get to those in your Silhouette Studio, it's like, okay, I bought this great thing. How do I find it? These are all the things that I've ever gotten from Silhouette Design Store. And I can go to File Types. I'm going to click Select All, which will deselect everything. And then I'm going to go down to Sketch Design. And that'll show me all of my designs that I have purchased or got for free. Let's open that one. You see how fine that is? Even if I make it black, which you can do by changing the line color, it's still not going to show up very well. But it will draw. And let's make it a little bit smaller. And if I go to the Send panel, now you can really see it because it's in Sketch, and that's everything that will be sketched. And the fun part of this is I want to show you something here. Just in case you don't know, if you want to open a new blank sort of document, it's almost like tabs on internet when you use Chrome. That's what I'm thinking of. It's going to open up a new document. Notice that the page setup panel popped up. I'm going to go back over to the library. Here's still all my sketch thing. Let's see. A bunch of little things. And one thing you'll notice that when I have this selected, this is not grayed out, and it means that it is grouped. So when I click on that, actually, let's try that again. Yeah, there we go. Now they're all ungrouped, and I can move them around and use them as I wish. Yeah, that's that one's also grouped. You have to be careful about not ungrouping too much because this is a group. I do that now. Now it's coming to pieces, so we don't want to do that. But these are just some things. They're relatively inexpensive. Typically, they're 99 cents. Sometimes they put them on sale for half off. Sometimes they give them away. So it's definitely worth poking around there if you're looking for something specific to use when you want to make a sketch design. The other thing you can do, if you don't feel like buying something, is make your own. You can use the line tools, the shape tools. If you've got a steady hand or a tablet that you can, and pen that you can draw with, they have freestyle or freehand tools. I was playing around. I'm like, okay, I'm going to make myself a cute little flower. And I want it to be curvy. I'm going to draw the stem. I want the stem to be curvy. So I click, and I click, and I click, and then I double click to end it. And I'm going to draw myself I'm going to make myself a flower. If you guys were in the snowflake class or anything, you remember this? I want that to be really narrow. I'm going to come over here to the replicate panel. And this is going to replicate and rotate 3 copies. So I go like that. And then I'm going to select all of those. I'm going to weld them. And now I have a flower. So I'm going to put my flower up here. And I need some leaves. So I'm going to go back over here to the, there we go, when I can draw here. Shapes, and I'm just going to draw some real basic little leaves here and plop that there. And then I can do, with that shape selected, if I hit Control D, it duplicates it. I can move it. I can spin it around. And all this good stuff. And now, yay, I have a flower. Draw a little grass. Now, I've got this set to turn, to go back to the selection tool after I draw, because typically I don't do a bunch of drawings one night after another. But again, it's the kind of thing that if you want to, you can just duplicate the heck out of it and move them all around, because that's some, grass has military precision. Draw some grass here. Okay, isn't this exciting? You're going to get a chance. Don't worry. I'm demoing this really quick. So there's my design. The other thing you can do is bring in designs. Vector graphics work the best. And I always like Pixabay. And that's, again, that website is on your resource sheet. They have a ton of different things too. And they're all free. So let's see. Okay. So I'm just going to say open. Oh, yeah, this was a fun one. Oh, here's one. Oh, it's already in there. Oh, right. I forgot. I'm in BASIC, and so now I can't open that file type. Bad on me. You can't. That's because it's a Silhouette file and it's been done in the business edition. Ooh, that's a big one. So I'm going to resize that. I'm going to lock my aspect ratio. I'm going to say, I'm going to make that about 10 inches. 10. Enter. And now it's a more reasonable size. If you notice, you can see the red around the edge because this is a PNG with a transparent background, so it automatically traces. If I say send it, now I'm still in cut. So let me show you though. If I change it to sketch, it's going to sketch around the edge, which is where the cut lines were, which could be very neat, depending on what you're after. But I'll show you how you can fill that in a little bit. But that came off Pixabay. They have lots of different things. I thought this was a pretty one, but boy, I'd have to see about trying to actually. Is it Flying Dandelions? Which is really cool, but wow, that's a lot of drawing.
I was just going to ask about that. That looks pretty complicated.
Yeah, not that it couldn't do it, because it's just going to draw every one of those lines, but it can take a long time to do this. That's the thing to understand. And when we look at the fill, particularly with the fill patterns and how dense you make that, it can take an hour or more sometimes if you do a really complicated design to sketch it, which you have to decide. I mean, it's really cool because, a design drawn with a pen is vastly different than something, just photocopied or whatever. But you do have to be aware of how much data is in this. I just double clicked on that, editing points. These are all the editing points that are in here. And every little point is a piece of data. That's a lot of information. This is a situation where you've got to give your computer a chance to work. Sometimes it will take some time for it to process things. If you're doing a large design or a very dense fill, just be patient and it should be fine. Every now and again, I've just lost the ability to have it work. So I'm going to cut that. It doesn't make much sense cut. But even then, see how it's taking time? And I've got a nice new computer. So I'm just going to let it go. Those lines are appearing very thick. They would actually be drawn. Well, it's going to go around. I think that's the thing to realize, is that it's not going to draw a straight line there. It's actually going to draw a hollow line because you can't see it. Let's see how close we can here. Okay. See, it's trace. It's cut. It will draw the outline of this. This may not be the best thing to use. I thought it looked cool though. All right, so now we're going to play around with these fill effects. And I'm just going to draw a rectangle. Or the line effects. It used to be called the sketch panel. And interestingly enough, when it was the sketch panel, you didn't get it in the basic edition. It wasn't something that you could use. Now I'll tell you, in the business edition, or actually anything up from the basic edition, there are a lot more things you can do, like outlines and things. But at this point, this is what we'll go with, and we'll play around with what we've got, which is plenty to play around with. So it's no big deal. So in your line effects panel, you have the options. This is nothing, which is good for taking out stuff you decided you didn't like. This is a grid. It's a very fine grid at this point. These are just lines straight across at this point. These are concentric, well, in this case, concentric rectangles. If it's a circle, you get circles and so forth. And then you get a spiral, which is just one single line that keeps going out, which makes me dizzy to look at. You move that thing around, it's like, whoa. Let's go back to grid, because the next thing that you want to know about is your spacing. What this does is space it out more. The higher you go, the farther apart the lines become. And you can see it here. And if I take it way down, it's almost to the point of being solid. That's a lot of data right there. You don't want to do that. You're not going to draw a big blue square anyway. There's no point in that. These are fun. And then there's your get busy and get dizzy. Woo. And then you have, let's go back here, the angle. You can adjust it. And what that does is change. Now it's sort of more of a diamond shape. And it just changes the angle of the lines in the design. Same with these lines. They're now this way across. I can make them go any direction I want them to go. You notice that when I click on concentric, the angle is grayed out because there is no angle. It's going to follow the shape of the object you started with. And as much as it's there for spiral, it doesn't really do a whole lot. It just really, so I mean, it's not anything you really need to worry about. That's how you can play around with what your design looks like. So once you've drawn it and you say, yep, that's exactly what I want, and that's what I want, is I can click on Release Effects. And what that's going to do is now that pattern won't change. And if I look in the Send panel, let's see what it looks like over here. See, it looks like a little grid. There you go. I can resize it. It's going to resize the fill effect along with the size of the object. So you can see those lines are getting closer together. And now they're getting further apart. As opposed to, I'm going to get rid of this fellow here. So I go here and I fill it. And as I resize it, I haven't released the effects. It's going to keep that size the same. The distance between the lines is still the same because I haven't released the effects. Once I release the effects, this is now a vector graphic, just like any other, which means that it'll stay true to itself regardless of how big or small I make it. It's going to stay in the aspect ratio of this is the same to that object regardless of what size I have. Now, what's really interesting is you can actually let's go to the circle. I'm going to hold down my shift key, if you remember this. I'm going to draw a circle, because if I don't hold down the shift key, I'm going to get an oval. Release the mouse, release the shift key. You do it in the other order, it'll pop back into an oval. So I'm going to put the lines in here. Up that a little bit. Okay. Actually, you know what? I want to do this. Yeah, there we go. So now I have my concentric circles in here. I'm going to release these effects. And I'm going to release the compound path. And what you now see is that each individual circle is its own piece. And what I can do is pull things out if I wanted to. So if you were, thinking about a design where you wanted for some reason, this sort of arrangement, that's something you can do. It's just fun to play around in. The thing to remember, this is like a series of pancakes stacked on top of one another, right? So if I take this outside circle and I fill it, it's on top. So it's going to look like everything else is gone. It's not. If I send it to the back, let me increase the transparency. See, those are all still there. But it's just important to remember that, like I said, these are layers of pancakes, teeny tiny pancake to big pancake. So they're all there. If I do something like subtract, we talked about, in other classes, the modify panel, I could select one of these circles. It's hard when there's this many together to get. Oh, yeah, that's another story. All right, but you get the idea of what we're looking at here. So, if you draw a grid or lines, you will see that this shape is no longer outlined, which can be okay if that's what you're after. But say, for example, I'm going to type my name here again. And I want to fill this. Now, unless I'm going for a cross stitch look, that's not really going to work. May not be the sketch I want to do either. If I make this a lot smaller, obviously it sort of fills in those gaps. But remember, every time I make it a little bit smaller, I'm adding data to this file. But what I can do is I could either before I fill it or after I fill it, I can duplicate this. So I'm going to, got it selected. I'm hitting Control D. There we go. I'm going to remove the fill on this. And now I've got the outline, right? What I can do is select both of those items. Remember this one up here, this is center. It's going to center those two shapes to each other. Now I have an outline block. I'm going to group that so it stays to. Oh, except I just hit the wrong button. Let's try it again. Yeah, there we go. So now this is stuck together and I don't have to worry about it. It's actually two different shapes. It's the one with the fill and the one with the outline. But if I go to send, and I come in here to look at it, you'll see it still has the fill, but it also has the outline, and all of that will draw. So that's something you can do with both, because it also happens with the line fill. You notice there's no edge to this. And change the angle of this a little bit. And if I want, I can just duplicate it. I can remove the fill from it. That puts that line back around it. And then I can center these two shapes on each other and group them. And now I've got a square again. It's not a problem with concentric and spiral, as those both leave the border on it. It's one of the, and this is concentric, it's one of the borders. Or an oval, concentric. And you can see it actually, the lines have run out into there. They get a little thick here because it's actually two lines. Here. And if we go to send, my computer goes, you really want me to draw all of that? You can see, you can't see this because it looks like it's filled, but it's not. It's just that it's pretty tightly packed. One thing I want to show you, just to understand how much data is in all of this, is I'm going to double click on this. You can either double click on it, I have this selected, or you can go over here to your edit points on the left. So let's look at all the edit points in this concentric circle, or this spiral. Except that's not what I wanted to do. I forgot to do something first. I'm going to here and I release these. Yep. Now do that. There we go. Once you've released the effects, and this is a vector graphic, this is how many data points are in this, just this simple drawing here. So again, you just have to be patient with your computer and know that when you fill things tightly, it can take some time to draw them. So, another fun thing, and then I want everybody to go in there and start drawing things and playing around. This is, I called Fun with Shapes. Let's zoom back out here a little bit. Does anybody have any questions while I'm horsing around here?
Nothing in the chat.
Y'all are too good.
That's because you're so good, Linda.
I don't know about me, but you know, it's because they all know this stuff already. So I just drew this. Now, this I'm going to go back to to the edit points, so I can if I double click on it, you'll see that because I didn't. Open back up. Because I didn't release the effects yet, this is still in line, or the line effects editing mode. I can take one of these corners and I can do some really cool stuff with this. Now you can do that with a shape that's not filled, mind you, if you double click on it and start moving corners around. And then I can click in here and add another point. I don't know what one would do with this, but I have to say it's kind of fun to do. It's a little therapeutic. And the thing to remember when you're working and designing your own files is it can take some time to design files. That's why people do it for a living, because a lot of people don't want to take the time to do it. But once you have the file done, you have it. With the caveat, remember, any design you create, save it to your hard drive. You can save it to the library, but if for some reason your computer crashes and you lose all your files, it's not likely to be able to be brought back in from the library, because they'll save the things you bought from Silhouette or got from Silhouette, but not necessarily the things you created yourself. But yeah, it's just a lot of fun. I don't know. I just was having a great time with this. I'm like, oh, this is really cool, man. I mean, it's like, gosh, I'm making modern art over here.
That's cool.
Isn't that cool? I don't know. I hope somebody figures out something cool to do with it because I just think it's neat. I mean, even I don't know, you draw something,
It looks like something they would do in an art class.
yeah, yeah. I mean,
I forget what it's called.
I do, yeah. That I have to say, I am not a
But
formally
there is a
trained.
thing it's called.
Okay, well, that's good to know. Maybe I'll try. That'll be my homework for the next classes. I'll find out what this is called. Other than Linda likes playing around with lines, but yeah. So what I would like you guys to do is to hop into Silhouette Studio. I'm going to come back out of here. Let's see. Is there anything else I wanted to share with you? Oh, I want to show you one thing that I did. Here, there's my beamer down. So, I don't know. This is my logo, right? I had a company made this for me. I brought that into Silhouette Studio, and I have a PNG of it, so it automatically traced it, and I saved it. This is actually drawn with the sketch pens on a wood disc, like a poster type of thing. Now, this was actually done on a Silhouette Cameo, which is a machine that would take much thicker materials. You can use it to etch and things like that. The Cameo 4 has some of those features. You can use some thicker materials in it than you can in 3 and things like that. But nonetheless, this is done with sketch pens, and it is quite the file, I'll tell you, because I had to individually pick. Because of course, when it brought it into Silhouette Studio, this was just an outline. So in order to, I will open the file and show it to you. It's a whopper. Let's see if it's in here. This is going to take a minute because it's a really big file. You can see that funny mat in the background is the Curio mat. So I'm going to turn off these grids just so you can see it. So I was taking a class in how to use the Curio. And so I decided that this was one of the tasks I was going to set for myself because I had to pick each thing. This is all grouped together. If I ungroup it, you'll see that each one of those dots is separate, as is Marvelous and the Makers. And I recolored them so that I could figure out which one was which. And these are filled with a pattern with a from the line effects panel. They're all filled, and I'm going to go to send because I want you to see this. This is when you get a little crazy, and it's taken some time because what I've done here is I've got it to sketch by line. So every color, because I have to change the pens out, right? So every color is grouped, and it's going to draw the pink ones first, and then unfortunately I only had one color of pink pen, so that's the most I could do. But and it doesn't matter what the material is because it's irrelevant to sketching. But you can see how I wound up being able to go from that design to actually making this wood coaster, which I would love to show you, but as it turns out, it's been sitting in the sun and it's totally faded. Like, oh wow, I put a lot of work into that, but I still have that file. That's the thing. It took me a couple of hours to do that file because 1, I was learning, and 2, it just took me time. But I thought it was pretty neat. It was like, this is a fun project, and it taught me a lot. And that's the thing, is the more you get in here and play around, the more you'll be able to to do.